The Larry Kudlow Show on the Red Apple Podcast Network.
So Mr. Trump has been tweeting up a storm about voter ID. And I am all for it. Voter ID. It's something we talked about in our interview earlier last week. But he's continued on, and he's determined to put it in place for this election. All right, voter ID, photo ID, and proof of citizenship. And I don't know, Democrats basically oppose it. It passed the House with one Democratic vote. It was Henry Cuellar on the border in Texas, the only Democrat voted for it. But it did pass the House. It will go to the Senate. And I think it's going to be a hot issue. Let's talk about it with our two pals, Joe Concha, Fox News contributor and WABC radio host. The Joe Concha Show, Sundays, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. And my pal Mark Simone, Hall of Fame radio host, 710 WOR. And he's weekdays, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. All right, gentlemen. Joe Concha, start with you. Voter ID. This one's coming out of right field, but this is a big issue. And President Trump is going to push this. He's going to fight for it for this coming election. What do you make of it?
Well, he said this morning just on Truth Social, Larry, that we cannot have another election without voter ID. He is pushing it to the point where he's even signing an executive order to make sure it happens during these midterms. I don't know, if that's going to hold up legally. But in the end, we always talk about 80-20 issues, right, on your TV show with Mark and me. This is an 85-15 issue.
Yes.
Fox News poll, 85% of voters want this, and not just Republicans want it or white people want it. An overwhelming number of blacks, 75%, Latinos, 76%, Democrats, 71%, all say if you go into a liquor store to buy a bottle of wine, you need an ID. You want to rent a car? You need an ID. You want to get an airline? You need an ID. You want to buy a gun? You need an ID. All these things, but the most sacred thing we do as Americans, voting, Democrats say, nope, don't need it. So it'll fail in the Senate, I'm sure. And the Republicans are now faced with a choice. Do we blow up the filibuster in order to pass this particular bill? Because they don't have the 60 votes right now, Larry. Mark?
Just to add, in order for Democrats in the House to vote against the voter ID citizenship bill, they have to have a photo ID card to put in the slot.
That's a great point.
All right? If they don't have a photo ID card, they can't vote against it. I mean, that's how stupid this is. And as Joe said, look, if you want to buy cigarettes, you got to have an ID card. Photo ID, airplanes, photo ID. A lot of welfare programs, photo ID. But anyway, I have a quote. Do we have the quote? Yes. Here's what he told me in our interview last week on this subject. Hang on one second. Here's some tape.
We want to get the Save America Act passed. Save America is on voting. We want people to have voter ID. We want people to have proof of citizenship. And we want to have no mail-in ballots other than if you're in the military or you're sick or you're away or some reasonable but good excuse.
So that was Monday. So he's been tweeting about it. And I think Joe Concha said this morning he's tweeting about it. So, Mark Simone, what do you make of this? I mean, again, this is a hot issue. The GOP is going to get a leg up in the midterms on this issue alone.
Yeah, Democrats are in such panic. They actually dragged Obama out of wherever he's been hiding and had him come out and fight for no voter ID. And by the way, Obamacare requires photo ID to get on it. And every civilized country has a requirement for photo ID. I was on a show on MSNBC where they were going to yell at me about this. I had to show photo ID to get into MSNBC.
Yes.
The most racist thing I have ever heard is Chuck Schumer and Democrats actually believing that a black voter couldn't possibly have a driver's license or photo ID. It is such a racist stereotype. I don't know how they get away with this.
So there's, Joe said, 75% of blacks approve of this. Is that right?
Yeah, that's right. 3 and 4. And again, it's not something that the base wants. But I think that this is kind of giving away the game here, that unless you have voting that is not on the up and up, especially when you could have illegals that can vote, maybe that's why 12 to 15 million people are allowed in the country for 4 years. That's all they're trying to protect here. I mean, they don't have a coherent argument around this. And whenever they're asked, hey, you're even your own base, even an overwhelming number of your voters want this, why don't you want it? They say something along the lines of, well, we're trying to protect women because if they get married and change their name, then they won't be able to prove who they are. That's the biggest nonsense I've ever heard. That's never been a problem in the past, but that's what they're going with.
Mark Simone, when you went on MSNBC, what was their argument against it? I assume they opposed this. What was their argument?
It's racist. It's discriminatory. And then I had to point out to them, I had to show an ID to get into the video.
Right.
Not to mention, any office building in New York, you have to show photo ID. You can't get a library book without a photo ID. So I can't believe all these institutions are racist. It's a ridiculous concept.
And you had to use a photo ID to get into the MSNBC building.
Yes, and the CNN building. I've been there too. Not only do you have to give me your driver's license, they stick it in this slot. They make their own copy of it. Then they take your picture and print up another ID card for you. So you need 2 IDs to get in there.
Well, I don't understand. So Trump is on something here, Joe Concha. I mean, look, I've been talking about the economy, which is a rocket ship right now. But this is important. And the other thing that I want you guys to talk about is the whole business about sanctuary cities. Okay, now, Lindsey Graham, Eric Schmidt, Senator Schmidt, Missouri, but President Trump, they want to end sanctuary cities. Now, Chuck Schumer and the Dems basically want to end ICE. And I don't care what they say. They have 10 demands, but every single demand pushes ICE back and reduces its authority and capability. So we're going to have a government shutdown for DHS for a while. I don't know. I'm not sure anybody cares. Maybe they do. Maybe they don't. But the debate over sanctuary cities, Joe, what do you make of it?
Hey, Larry, I mean, all great points. Sanctuary cities, another, when you look at polls again, and Mark always talks about how polls are off, even if they're like way off on this, still an overwhelming majority of people do not support sanctuary cities. The only people that do are people that live in, Brooklyn, I guess, that voted for Zohran Mamdani. And you see the way New York is now these days with still snow that's 7 miles high and garbage and rats, and it's gone back to the Dinkin days, probably even worse. But overall, it just what was the question actually? I'm sorry. Can you repeat that?
No. Is it an issue? I mean, here's the thing. The backdrop here, it is sanctuary cities that lead to the violence and the shootings. In other words, sanctuary cities. Let's take Minnesota, okay?
Minneapolis, yeah.
All right, Minneapolis. So the prisoners, the illegals who were criminals and in jail were not allowed to be turned over to ICE inside the jail or the prison because it's a sanctuary city. The politicians have told the police are happy to turn them over to ICE, but they can't because it's a sanctuary city. So what happens? So they were released into the general population, more crime occurs, and ICE has to come in and make even larger sweeps with even more agents, and that's where you get into trouble with shootings and other forms of violence. Okay?
Yeah, and
so that's the point. And if you abolish the sanctuary city, like these police forces have all said so publicly. All right, they've said we would much prefer to do this in the jail, just turn them over, get them, and deport them. Okay, but they won't let them. So sanctuary cities, I think, are very unpopular.
They are, and they only are somewhat popular in Minneapolis, New York, San Francisco, all these places run by, let's face it, either socialists, communists, or very, very far left liberals. And look, if you just worked with ICE, like Memphis and New Orleans do, I think those are two great examples. Memphis and New Orleans are two cities, guys, that are run by Democrat mayors, but they're in red states. And those Democrat mayors realize that, okay, if we just work with ICE, there's not going to be the chaos like we're seeing in Minneapolis and all this resistance. Have we heard any stories of anything happening with ICE agents and the general public in those cities? No. Has crime gone down in places like Memphis and New Orleans as a result of working with federal law enforcement? By something like 65%. Washington, D.C. is practically a utopia right now as far as like almost no murders this year so far, and we're already into mid-February. So, yeah, work with the Trump administration, work with federal law enforcement. Everything will be a safer place, but Democrats see this as a political, I guess, advantage to have the chaos, and as a result, people are losing their lives, and they just don't seem to care.
Well, so Mark Simone, I mean, politically, again, President Trump wants this to be an issue. Lindsey Graham wants a vote. I think he's going to wind up getting a vote on defunding sanctuary cities. As part of this DHS debate, ICE has already been funded. ICE has been funded. Okay. Sanctuary cities, on the other hand, have not necessarily been funded, and they can be defunded. So is it, for the GOP in the midterms, do you think this is a good issue, a hot issue? Is it worth dwelling on?
Yeah, and it's important to get this done. The Democrats want no photo ID, and they want every illegal to stay here. You don't have to be Columbo to figure this plot out. It's about getting votes, and it's also about putting bodies in certain cities they're counted in the census, legal or illegal. It's about getting more congressional seats that way. It's got to be done before the midterms. It's just Obama had ICE all over the streets deporting people, led by Tom Homan at the time. There was no objection.
That's an important point. You know what? Yeah. That last point, I don't know why Republicans ought to mention that, have quotes, show statements by Obama. You're right. Obama was a huge deporter of illegals. Huge. I think, yeah, I think it was about even with Trump. Now, Trump's got, more to do, but that's right. Just use Obama. Quote Obama.
Yeah. And then at the end of that, he gave Homan he gave Homan a big medal at the end of it. He was so proud of what he did.
That's right. Yeah, the number is 3.1 million under Obama. I mean, that is an incredible number. And he was called the deporter-in-chief by the left. They didn't like that very much. But, yeah, just show Barack Obama promoting this in every ad and say, all right, why have you changed your mind now? Oh, right. There's a midterm to win.
I can see the ads. I love the ads. Put the Obama thing in the ads.
Obama used ICE and Homan, and he required photo ID for his Obamacare. So there's no difference between him and Trump on this.
So, Mark Simone, is Tom Homan going to take over DHS from Corey Lewandowski? Whoops, sorry. From Kristi Noem?
Well, I think somebody at some point is going to take over DHS. I think Homan's more of a battlefield general. I don't think he wants to be in the executive suites. I think he'd rather be out there in the field, and that's where he belongs. He's patting out in the streets.
He is patting in the streets. I like that. But Joe Concha, you got to have some fun with this. Corey Lewandowski is an old friend of mine, very old friend. I know Kristi Noem too, but I know Lewandowski. So Lewandowski fires the pilot, the airplane pilot, because he lost Kristi Noem's blankie, her little blanket, her blankie. You got to have your blankie when you travel.
Oh, yeah.
And he fired him. But it turns out he had to rehire him because he was the only guy that could fly this refitted, whatever it is, 737, I don't know. But she's buying a fleet of airplanes so she can travel in comfort. I think Tom Homan doesn't really... Tom Homan would travel, he doesn't have to go first class, he'd go business class. He's a business class kind of guy. He might even be, ordinary passenger, tourist class, or whatever it's called.
You could put Homan on the back of like a Harley Davidson, he wouldn't care. It's like, he doesn't care about that. But I can tell you, if my wife is listening, trust me, blankets are very sensitive things with women. And if they don't have a certain blanket in a certain place, hell hath no fury like a woman without her blanket. So I kind of get where Corey was coming from. But don't pick those battles, though. I mean, there's plenty of battles to fight out there. The firing over the blanket probably ain't one of them.
Well, I just don't think that was a wise thing to do. But she's buying up a lot of airplanes. I don't think that's why. She's also buying up a lot of ads where she centers in the ad. Now, I am all for the policy, but I don't think her management of DHS is doing Trump any good, Mark Simone. That's the point. The Homan stuff, very good. The Kristi Noem, Lewandowski stuff, not good.
Yeah, she's from the Mamdani School of Management, whereas you do press conferences, photo opportunities, take pictures, social media. But if you're so busy doing that, you've got no time to be in the office getting anything real actually done.
All right, we're going to take a quick break so Joe Concha can get his blankie. I don't want it to be cold. Concha, WABC radio host, okay? Sundays, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. And Mark Simone on 710 WOR weekdays, 10 a.m. to 12 noon. I'm Kudlow. We'll be right back. So we're talking politics with two of the best. Dear friends, Joe Concha, Fox News contributor. Joe is now a WABC radio host. It's the Joe Concha Show, Sundays, 11 a.m. to 12 noon. He's a busy fellow. And my pal Mark Simone, Hall of Fame radio host, 710 WOR, and Mark is weekdays at 10 a.m. to 12 noon, Monday through Friday. This is complicated. It's a foreign policy question. We just have a few minutes, but it's interesting. Mark Simone, start with you. The president really yesterday, for the first time, said that regime change in Iran would be the best thing that could happen. Now, he has been arguing, after the bombing of a month or two ago, which was very successful, crippling the nuclear stuff, but they still have ICBMs, and the mullahs and the Revolutionary Guard still in charge. So when I talked to him about Iran on Monday, and he was very forceful that he wanted to negotiate and felt that they wanted a deal. Now, the week has passed, and yesterday he said regime change would be the best policy. Does that tell you we are moving towards, military action and regime change, and that the deal business is fading?
Yeah, we're moving towards something. We have to have regime change. This is the most evil, brutal regime in the world today. These reports of the security forces going into hospitals, shooting people in their beds. I mean, you've got to get rid of this regime. You got to make sure that something better comes along. When Shah was toppled, we end up with the Ayatollah. We don't want to go through something like that again. But this will be like the fall of the Berlin Wall. This will be an amazing moment in history if we can topple this regime.
Well, I think, I'm rooting for Mark's point of view, Joe. I just don't know how this plays out. And it just sounds like the president's run out of patience. And the idea of a deal is not something that is now as attractive to him as it was maybe just a week ago.
He's in the 50s. Yeah, Larry, I think that Iran, you think they would have learned their lesson from what happened with Operation Midnight Hammer, where they didn't even see us coming, took out their nuclear facilities in one fell swoop after Democrats and Republican presidents have been promising to do that for decades, and Trump does it in one night, perfectly executed. Their military is no match for ours. But then again, you think back to, maybe not Iran, but Iraq in 2003 and the mess that was for 7 or 8 years as far as regime change there. So you could take out the Iranian regime. The question is, kind of like in the show The Sopranos, you can take out Johnny Sack in New York, but who's going to replace Sack? Like, you don't know what's behind, the regime, where you might actually end up getting something worse, or the vacuum there ends up being more chaos that we can't control. So the president has to be very careful about this. I agree his patience has run out, but this is not a guy who ever liked regime change and a lot of, interaction in general, militarily, where he doesn't think that America doesn't have its best interest ultimately at heart here. It may very well be the case, but I would let this play out a little bit longer before you take that step, because once you break it, you own it. And this is something that maybe just like with Iraq, we don't want to own. Was
Johnny Thack, what was he?
Johnny Thack.
Brigadier General, or what was he? I can't remember. Was he the head of he was the head of CENTCOM in those days?
Probably. Simone knows Sopranos better than I can, but I think it's a pretty good analogy, Mark, right?
Yeah, he was the New York boss.
Well, the question is, and, running out of time, but the question is, if you make a deal with Iran, the deal will be broken, right? I mean, that's just the whole history of it. And I'm sure that President doesn't want to start another war, but the fact is, what good is a deal with Iran? I mean, those guys lie, cheat, and steal. I mean, that's the thing I just don't understand. We'll see how it plays out, but I think we'll be I think the U.S. will be ready. Anyway, thank you, Joe Concha. I appreciate it very much. Mark Simone, appreciate it very much. Folks, we will take a break, and then we're going to go back to the economy with Breitbart's John Carney and all these falling prices.
Thanks for listening to The Larry Kudlow Show. You can hear The Larry Kudlow Show Saturday mornings at 10. If you like the podcast, share it with your friends and listen anytime at WABCRadio.com and download the WABC Radio app. Hit that subscribe button on all major podcast platforms. Plus, follow WABC on social on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and X. See you next time for a new episode so you never have to wonder.
What the heck is going on here?